me show you, for instance, here I have another product that you can definitely get a trial for free here to try it out. It's the AQ Time product. And the AQ Time is a profiler that has been available actually since 1999, believe it or not. This is actually the first product ever created by the company from Automated QA. So I can actually create, let's say, for instance, a new project in here. And the first thing you want to do, you can specify which part of an application you would like to profile. Let's say, for instance, I'm going to do it for all the full check by routine. I can do it by routine, by line of code, or by classes. We'll leave it as simple as possible for right now, just to give you an idea. In here on the left side, I'm going to add the module. So now I'm going to go into my directory for the bin directory under debug in here. This is what I have my DLLs. These are all the DLLs will end up being pretty much zipped up into that ZAP file. So the one I would like to profile is the sltestcomplete.dll. This assembly is going to be inside of the ZAP file, but I'm going to double click on this guy and notice that AQ Time automatically opened the assembly and told you about all the namespaces, all the classes, all the functionality available in it. So I can see that even if I don't have the source code of this application on my machine. So this is on the fly decompiling using automatically the internals of the .NET system. But the important part for me in here is that I would like to run this app and let AQ Time keep listening on what's going on in the app to be able to profile everything. Based on what? I can do it based on allocation profiler, reference counting, resource profiler. I can do the coverage for all the functionality. Maybe I have 1,000 functions in my app, only 5 of them ever get called. I need to know how much coverage there is in my app. Also, the one that you might be interested in is the performance profiler. This is extremely important, of course, for Silverlight apps. So let's go ahead and choose this one for right now. And before I start running this, let's go to run in here, and I'm going to change the parameters a little bit. For the host application, I'm going to tell it to run it inside of Internet Explorer. So I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and shut it down from here. Control-C this guy. I'm going to shut down IE. And in my parameters in here, I'm going to be passing that local host. So I know that when I'm going to say run, it's going to run the app in an Internet Explorer, and it will pass the parameter of the page that has the Telerik grid inside of it. Say OK there. And let's go ahead and go for it. I want you to notice when I play what's going to happen at the bottom in here for the event view. Let's click on run. Yeah, let's go ahead and choose the thread model. Again, there is a lot of things that we can actually spend the next week to talk about in here, but I'm going to just say run right now for using the Win32 threads in here. Oh, I shut it down. Sorry. Let me go ahead and do that in Visual Studio. And we'll wait for it to stop in Visual Studio. I have to run it again so that we can have that port number open right away. All right. Okay, stop it now. Welcome to Visual Studio, folks. You have to wait a couple of seconds till it actually puts everything together. There you go. I'm going to run it one more time in here. And we'll take this guy. And in my AQ Time, we'll make sure that our run parameters are correct. They are. And we'll run it one more time. All right, perfect. Notice what's happening at the bottom in here, folks, is the event view. It's running tons of stuff because it's listening on whatever is going on as far as profilers. So if I go back to AQ Time, you will notice in here that it will tell me every time one of the assemblies, even from the .NET system, has been loaded, when it was loaded, where it was loaded in memory. And for some of the R&D people on the call, this might be very important in case there is a clash between 2 different assemblies or something like that. Even though we don't have DLL hell anymore from the Win32 days, we do have assembly hell sometimes, so it's still available. Anyway, so that is my application is being profiled right now. I go back to Internet Explorer. I've created 2 buttons in here. When I click on the first one, this is actually doing things extremely slow. What is it doing? It's actually is trying to calculate the sum of all the numbers, for instance, for all the sales in here. But the way it's doing it is actually going back every time to call a function on the server, come back, and then do some work on it. Then go back to the server based on every record. I actually have 19 records in here. It will end up going back and forth between the server and the client 19 times. So I'm going to click on this calculate button. See, it took a few seconds, still pretty fast, but it came back saying 44 million. I'm going to say okay, and I am going to shut this application down. Automatically, you'll see that AQTime will be giving you a full report, and I can actually base it on time. So you see, for instance, the sum sales finish function that I have in there took 4.7 seconds. That's a significant amount. That's with children, by the way. That means all the sub-function that had to be called inside of there as well. So I can see in here, and I can see the timing it took for every single item. I can also see a summary. I can see that there's 108 routines were analyzed. 68 of them were executed. I can see the worst performance. All right, so obviously the sum sales finished is the worst performance function. I have the initialized component. This is something we might not be able to do anything about because this is the initialization from the application itself in Silverlight. So we know it's going to take half a second to do this. Also, there is a get QD, whatever it is. That is the part that actually does the initialization with the WCF to go get the data. So this is a very important function as well. Maybe we can, maybe we cannot make it any faster, but at least you know where the least favorite or worst performance in the application as far as functions are all about. The report in here is very, very important, folks. I can actually filter this however I want, and notice on the 31st at 10:37 I can see there is a thread number in here. It gives me all this information. Let's go ahead and run this guy one more time. We'll say yes in here, and it will go to the Telerik, for instance, sample in here. And this time I'm going to click on the second button. There you go, the grid is there. I'm going to click on the second button. This button in here actually goes to the server only once. It only goes to the server once, and it does all the work on the server for all the 19 records and comes back automatically. So it doesn't have to go back and forth 19 times. So we'll click that and notice, I don't know, you probably didn't notice how fast it is, but it was faster than the first one by maybe a quarter of a second or something. We'll say okay there, and I'm going to close this application. Notice in here now, okay, this is because it's actually calculating the wait time as well, but this function was faster. And I'll show you now that we can actually highlight this one, which was just run, the good one. And I'm going to click also by pushing the control key, and there is two of them highlighted. I can right-click in here and say compare. And you can set settings that you don't have to do this every time. You can say, based on which info column you'd like to compare, whether you want to compare the percent time with the percent children, the different styles. Notice how great this is. Each and every one you can choose if you do not want to show the style for the difference, or you can make the first minus the second, or first divided by second multiplied by 100%. So whatever difference you want to see between the first run and the second run, you can do it however you'd like in here. So I can actually choose so many different things. I'm going to leave most of them empty, but you can see all the average times, the class names, the exception numbers between the first run and the second run. We'll say okay there. And there you go. You get a full report right now based on milliseconds. You can change that, of course, from microseconds to machine cycles to seconds, whatever you want. And you can see the name of the function, the average time with children. There is so much information that you can actually take a look in here. Notice there is something here that is 83.53% is being taken, which is the model itself, to be able to call that function. So you can actually dig deeper, and this tool can definitely be very, very useful for you to find out where is your bottleneck inside of the application and what can you do to make it actually run much faster. And again, remember, this is running on the client. So it's profiling the application on the client as far as performance. So if you're doing grouping, sorting, calling functions, doing whatever, AQTime can definitely do so much. I only showed you one of like 200 different things you can do in AQTime, but hopefully it gives you an idea that how easy it is to load the assemblies from a Silverlight application and be able to look deeper inside of it and make comparison between different functions to see which one is working better.